Okay, welcome to All Access Coaches Corner, Rising Coaches. If you have not been yet to risingcoaches.com, please check it out. A ton of great features, ton of great things for coaches to be able to network and grow, continue to evolve in the game. So one of the biggest coaching trees in the college basketball world, if not the biggest one. So definitely check it out. Feel free to put your information in the chat so you can share, network, and connect to other coaches. Super excited to have our first player development coach slash. We'll get to his slashes in just a minute, but we definitely don't want to put him into a box. But that is something he specializes in. Nick Grant out of Dallas, Texas, and I will let Leonard Perry, former guest, All Access Coaching Corner family, Dallas legend, introduce him first, and then I'll get started.
It's my honor to be a part of it and part of this, and get a chance to introduce this young man. He was born into this business. His dad was a longtime legend, basketball coach in the city of Dallas, been at Division I schools, SMU, Oklahoma State, been to the Final Four. So this young man has been exposed to this game, the coaching side, the player development side, in every aspect, at every level you could possibly be at. He's worked with pros, NBA players, he's developed college players, he's been on high major staffs at places like Iowa State. Really could be a head Division I basketball coach if that's what he chose to do. Has an uncanny ability to relate to players. Players trust him. They work really hard for him. They'll meet him anywhere in the world to better their games. And just an outstanding human being. He and his sister are just great people. I've known his family for a long time, but Nick Graham is special in this business. We do not have enough of them. Guys that as coaches, if I have a player or my player's going to work with Nick Graham, I just relax. I move on to the next thing. I don't worry about what he's teaching, how he's teaching. I know it's going to be taught the right way. I know he teaches kids how to buy into systems, to programs, do things the right way, respect their coaches, and respect the game. So without further ado, Nick Graham, the best in the business. I know there are a lot of pro development guys out there and guys that claim to be this, that, and the third. But this one, for my 30 years in this business and knowing him the entire time, this one is the best one that I've seen. So Nick Graham.
Yeah, awesome, Coach. Appreciate you sharing that. Spoke a lot of truth, all truth on Nick. I've known Nick for majority of my career. Met Coach Graham when he was actually college coaching at a small NAIA school, Missouri Baptist. We got linked up back then. His dad, legendary coach himself, still as coach at Dallas and the Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex. Has had great players along his way, all the way through. Was a former head coach at Washington State, amongst other places where Nick played for his dad there at Washington State. And I can speak for Judge, as they call him. He actually recruited a kid I coached, Jonathan Simmons, when I was in junior college, an assistant for Ross Harris Junior College. And that's when I first got to know Judge. So I've been linked to Coach's family, Coach Grant's family, for a long time, but have really gotten a chance to get to know Nick on a personal level. I was transitioning from out of college basketball to working to do some skill development stuff myself. Nick actually linked me up really big time with connection he had to really help me kind of get going in that space. And then I realized I wasn't Nick Graham. You know, I wasn't on the same level. It wasn't what my calling was, but we've been close friends ever since. I consider him to be family. He's a man that is all about holistic development of the athlete, not just doing skills and drills, but also, developing character, developing leadership. And the part I probably love the most of all of that is he's developing faith in these young men too. So really excited about Nick and being on the platform. I think there's so many different dimensions that he can add value to all of us. yeah, just looking forward to it. So, Nick, without further ado, we'll let you get started. I'll tell you real quick. So we'll have a quick little interview, and then after that, we'll go and have question and answer. And after the question and answer, we'll let him do some basketball breakdown, followed by one more question and answer. So, thanks so much for joining today. Nick, go ahead. Sorry.
Wait, say that again. I'm sorry.
No, I said go ahead and get started, man.
No, I just like one for me, like, man, like having Coach Perry say that, like, man, like that means something to me because Coach Tubbs, man, I know, like, Coach Tubbs, we have that connection. And Coach Tubbs, Jimmy Tubbs, the Texas legend, my dad was best man in my dad's wedding and, you know, helped make me not just the basketball coach, but the man I am, you know, and just to hear him say that about me, it makes me feel good about, like, representing Coach Tubbs. Coach Tubbs, unfortunately, passed away way too early. And, you know, I know it hit Coach Perry like it hit me, but, like, before he passed, we were talking every day because it was my first year coaching college. And I needed men to talk every day. And so I just wanted to, you know, first express how much that meant to have somebody like that say something and just acknowledge somebody that means so much to both.
Yeah, no, awesome stuff. So we'll get started. Nick, what's something you've learned about yourself or your family that's kind of entertaining or funny during this COVID kind of stay-at-home order?
So what I've learned about my family, unfortunately, I found out my dad likes the Lifetime Movie Network. So, you know, he loves basketball and all this, and every time I look up, he's watching the Lifetime Movie Network. My mom got him hooked, but he watches it more than her. But, you know, like on a serious note, I found out about my family. I'm single. I don't have any kids yet, but just my family, just how much joy we have for one another, how much we love one another, how resilient we are. So that's been cool. And then just being able to, like, invest in one another's interests. You know, my mom likes to cook. So, like, once a week I try to cook with her. You know, my dad, he has a man cave with a TV out on the patio. So we get out there and I listen to him sing like he's the Temptations, which can be unbearable at times, but it's a cool father-son deal. And then my sister's just taking over Dallas with her brand. So just kind of helping her grow as an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for, you know, since 2010. So just being able to, like, have that bond. So just being able to share one another's interests and just really kind of, it's one thing to love the people you're close with, but I feel like it's almost like time is stood still with the quarantine where you're able to, like, take more time to, like, express that action where they can feel that love. So that's kind of been the best part for me.
Yeah, awesome for all of us to be able to invest in our families during this time, man. Tell us about your journey. Tell us how you got to where you are now. Tell us about playing for your dad.
Yeah, so, like, my journey is, like Coach Perry said, like, I had no choice. Basketball chose me. You know, I was a daddy's boy, so I just wanted to be around my dad. And my dad, like a lot of, especially minority coaches, you know, like, got to put in a lot of work. So in order for me to bond with my dad, that meant going to the gym, which I had no problem. To bond with my dad. I remember when I was young enough, you know, he had his favorite recliner, like a lot of, you know, guys with their house. When I was young enough, I would sit in the recliner and listen to him recruit. And I think that's why I'm able to connect with players and parents and stuff like that. So, you know, like, I was never taught the game. I just kind of, like, absorbed the game. You know, it's kind of like cooking something in the crock pot versus the microwave. Like, how I learned the game was just slow and just that flavor of just basketball. And so, like, with my dad, you know, like, just being around him, just, he started off when I was 2, he was a coach at SMU. So my first memories were that, you know. It was cool on Father's Day. You talk about quarantine. One of the things I did for Father's Day, I found a bunch of YouTube from, like, 1985, SMU versus North Carolina. SMU had John Concack and Butch Moore. I know Coach Perry remembers those names, and Downtown Johnny Fuller and guys like that. North Carolina had Kenny the Jet Smith, and watching with my dad. And then, you know, my dad's biggest basketball mentor, and really mine in a lot of ways, was Coach Sutton. And so when Coach Sutton passed, we went to YouTube again and watched my dad's favorite games and watching him with Big Country and different things like that. So, you know, that's kind of how I was taught the game. You know, it was almost intimidating. I never thought I was as good a player as I was, because when I was, you know, 12 years old, I was a ball boy sitting on the basket watching Paul Pierce and watching Rafe LaFrance and watching this guy and that guy, watching Chauncey Billups and people like that. So I never really thought I was good, because when I was 15, I was comparing myself with Paul Pierce. So it kept me humble, but it also showed me at a young age, which makes sense when I'm a trainer. So I remember there was a guy named Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson would have been a first-round pick, but he tore up his knee at the NBA draft combine. Adrian Peterson, to me, was an amazing player. I was like, I could work as hard as I could. I'll probably never be that good. I saw how humble he was, and to see how hard he worked on a daily basis, and then to watch Paul Pierce come in there and just like kick his ass, like really opened my eyes at a young age to be like, yo, this is how hard you have to go. And so that's kind of how I got into basketball. I always knew that I wanted to be a coach. Of course, one much time with my dad. And then Coach Sutton was my dad's boss from 92 to 99. I was 12 to 18. He did what a lot of bosses wouldn't, you know, at that level let people do. Like, I was in the locker room before the game, at halftime, after the game, whether they won, whether they lost. I was in the office. I traveled with them. I was at practice every day, you know. So, like, to see that from a Hall of Famer, and if that wasn't good enough, then you got Bill Self, you got Tim Jankovich, and then to go home with my dad. And so I just fell in love, obviously, with basketball at a young age, but as I grew in that space, I fell in love with the development and the teacher and the teaching. Bill Self was a teacher. My dad was a teacher. Coach Sutton was a teacher. It wasn't necessarily the X's and O's. It was like taking these guys and getting the best out of them as basketball players and men. And so, like, I've just tried to take that and, you know, kind of more or less take the baton they've given me and run with it.
Yeah, no, that's great, Coach. Definitely have been around some of the greats in the game, some of the giants in the game, including your father. So, yes, it's definitely almost have no choice but to pick up some of the great things you picked up. Tell us about just the player development aspect of what you do. We'll get into all the dimensions, but tell us just about that part specifically, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so to me, you know, player development, my career in college, it didn't go well. Man, I don't know if you saw like the Eddie Sutton story with Sean. Like, I could definitely resonate with that. Like, I put way too much pressure on myself. And so, like, every time, like, if I miss a free throw, my dad's going to get fired. You know, imagine playing with that much pressure. And then I'm trying to, like, fit in with the guys. I'm trying to not be the coach's son. And, like, it was just extremely tough. And I think what happened is when I saw my son Nick is good, you know what I mean? You know, because I put a mask on like everything was good. The other players, they were kind of envious of my relationship with me off the court. So I didn't, like, if coach was getting in my butt in practice, there wasn't a teammate ride or die. Assistant coaches just assume, like, well, you know, that's Paul's son, he's got him. So I felt really, really lonely. I didn't have that person to lift me up and do those things. And so, like, for me, like, player development, I don't want anybody to ever feel alone like that. That's kind of my why, you know, like, to somebody to just always be there, someone to push you, someone to have that connection. The thing about player development that I love is it's extremely intimate. It's just a different connection that you have with players because of the intimacy. When you think about player development, those players are trusting you with what they covet the most. The most important thing to them is their basketball game. So when you respect that and you covet that and you help them be the best player, guess what? They trust you not just with basketball, they trust you with, in my case, as a faith mentor with their faith. They trust you to listen on every other front. And so for me, I feel like that's my best contribution in basketball is in the player development space, because leveraging the influence. When you can take a player, like I'm going to use Lindell when we start talking about basketball stuff, Lindell Wigginton. Lindell Wigginton, when I was at Iowa State, was the first 5-star recruit, and he couldn't handle the pressure. It was too much because of everything I went through as a player alone, being on that island. Other people didn't recognize the pressure that he was carrying on the inside. I did. Just had a simple talk with him, and through that, I developed this trust. We started getting in the gym. He started killing. Next thing you know, he's trusting me to help develop him as a man. So that's kind of like my niche in kind of this basketball space.
Pretty good. Tell us a little bit about the other things you do. I know you do holistic training. I know you do some things with nutrition. I know you got a book that's coming out. Tell us, before we get into question and answer with the audience and then your presentation, tell us a little bit about the other things you do other than just skill development.
Yeah, so like for me, like I mentioned earlier before we got cut off, like for me, the basketball, Coach Sutton, myself, basketball is always a vehicle to help you be a better man or woman. I enjoyed it. I work with a lot of females as well. I think that's important. I really felt like before Kobe left, I thought it was cool how much he contributed and embraced the female game. But that I just kind of take off on that. And so that was just always what I did and what I've done. And God has blessed me with great leaders. I feel like you can't, I did an Instagram live with Chauncey Billups. If anybody wants that video, I'll send it to you, and I'd encourage you, because he is the best leader in sports that I know. Has really influenced me. But even him, just like, so like a lot, as coaches, you know, you're disciples and people that help mold you. For me in player development, it was Chauncey, and it was always about helping, you know, the players be better men, better women, especially our minorities, and preparing them for what awaits. So like, if I was going to do that, it had to be more than basketball. For me, you know, you guys talked to my dad, so you know, I just thought that I was going to be a shoe-in, you know, traditional college coach. There's a reason that God gave me this lane in this space, because I was supposed to do more. And so, you know, and not only that, he gave me experiences in working with Chauncey Billups, working with Trae Young, and being Jimmer Fredette's training for the last 6 years and different people like that, to like really see what greatness is, whether you're a basketball player, an astronaut, or a doctor. You know, so like, yeah, so that led me to write the book, a book of basketball themed devotionals. One of the things that I saw when I was at Iowa State, and those of you guys that haven't been around the college game in a long time, it's tough on these kids as it's ever been, in terms of the demands on their time, in terms of the social media attention, in terms of dealing with that. But there's not a lot of mental development, mental maturity. We have to look ourselves in the mirror. Sports is 80% mental, 20% physical. We all say that, but what are we doing to develop them mentally? And so for me in my space, like, I just wanted to create like a holistic thing to develop them, to allow them to be able to handle the pressures that come with basketball, and to prepare them for the platform that comes with basketball, and to prepare them for what comes after basketball. So that's kind of been my mission and my why.
No, that's great, Coach. I think the time you're going to share a little bit more with us about your time in the Big 12 and kind of some of the things you implied, and it's still there. But before we get to the basketball presentation, let's just open it up for questions from the audience. We'll take 2 or 3, maybe 4 questions, and then we'll get to your basketball presentation. So if you want to, just go ahead and unmute, and then go ahead and tell us your name and where you're from, and then we'll go straight to your question.
Coach Brant Daniels, I'm up in Wisconsin right now. I guess my question to you was, what was the most difficult part of the transition for you going from coaching at the college level into training?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So there's like kind of emotional and then just kind of real world living. Emotional, like you gotta give up something to get something. When you're away, it's almost like you're the head coach. You have that freedom. You don't have to explain anything to anybody. You get to connect with the players on a different, like a more intimate level. But what you don't get, man, is that competition. You know, I really miss that. You know, it's nothing like preparing. It's nothing like, even when you lose, to be with that group of guys and be in the locker room and learn how to pick yourself up and get back on the practice floor. You know, like I remember when I got back into coaching at Iowa State, those of you guys that are coaching, man, don't take for granted the bus rides. To me, the bus ride on a road game from the hotel to the gym is one of the most sacred things. Nobody says a word, but everybody, it's like one heartbeat. We know what we're feeling. Nobody says anything. Everybody gets in their zone, listen to eye, give them a handshake, and you don't say a word, but you know what it means, and you get ready to go fight in front of a few thousand or maybe even 20,000, you know, and all the work that you put in. Like, there's nothing like that. And so just not having that. But then from a, like, real world to, like, make a business of training. I'm at a place where I mentor from a business standpoint. There's a lot of people that know to go from just being a workout guy, which I can't stand that. Like, I feel like I put in too much time to just be a workout guy. To go from being a workout guy to a player development professional that can make a living. I mean, it's hard. It's scary. It was the hardest thing I ever did. I was staying on the couch. I was homeless. I was a lot of that. But I believe that I could make a living doing it. So just to fight through that, you know, starting your own business. You know, a lot of us we grew up in basketball, so we know basketball, but we don't really understand the entrepreneurial skills. So you have to learn those kind of on the run, figure it out. And it's just like starting your brand, starting a business where you can legitimately make money and support yourself from scratch. It's like taking a job, like my dad was talking about at Washington State when you're in the Pac-10. Like you don't have a lot of people wanting to help you out. You don't have a lot of people wanting to connect. I was just as good a trainer when I started off as I was when I got connected with Chauncey Billups. I remember when I first started, I got these flyers. I was feeling good about myself. I went to the state tournament in Colorado. I remember passing out flyers to 9-year-old kids. And to a 9-year-old kid, take your flyer and try to go through that. I remember calling coach and staying up, like, you know, just trying to find email addresses. The way that you guys as college coaches go recruit, I'm going to like 8th grade AAU tournaments with my logo on, trying to connect, and people blowing me off. And then I remember once I finally started making a name for myself and working out Chauncey Billups and Jimmer Fredette and Trae Young, I ain't had no problem getting gym time. I ain't have no problem connecting with high school people. So it's a lot of the same stuff. I think the one thing that's different, man, is it's just you. You know what I mean? Like when we have a staff, you know what I'm saying? It was just me by myself, and it was a very lonely deal. You know, but I found out a lot about myself. So I would say those two things, and then probably the last thing, it's a lot harder to professionally develop. You know, like you guys have coaches at other schools and this and that with player development. It's a lot hard to professionally develop because you put so much time in the basketball, but also the business. And then there's a lot of people that they don't want to share, you know, because they're so protective and territorial. So I would say those three things were the most challenging.
Cool. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, great question too. And I remember driving from Utah to go visit Nick in Denver and stay with him for a few days, and he put on a pretty big event, and I got to watch some individual workouts and been able to see firsthand how he's grown his business, grown his brand, and went from kind of in those early stages to building something where he's working with pros and NBA guys on a regular. So definitely salute to that, and appreciate you coming on to share today, Coach, because you're right. A lot of people don't necessarily want to do that. Coach Perry, I think you had a question next. We'll take one more after Coach Perry, and we'll get his presentation started.
I got a twofold question for you. You touched on one part of it a little bit earlier, Nick, with how hard it is to play for your dad in Division I. And I want to hear on both sides of it. But the first part of my question is, as you are doing your development program with these guys, you're in Generation Z. You're in them. That's who you're dealing with. What types of things do you touch on and teach? Because it took me forever to learn that when a child is, say, maybe 6 to 10 years old and his parents decide to divorce or break up, or they don't make it, that kind of toll it takes on the kid later on. So you're dealing with this, and you get it in intimate moments as you're building your programs with them, as you're spending this intimate time with them, as you're getting them better, as you're building trust. What are you saying now with the social issues that we have in front of us? How are you coaching them in that mental space right now? And what are you seeing back from them right now? What are those emotions, feelings coming back to you right now? And then I'll ask the second part.
Yeah, I love that question. So to me, I think that like with what I do, and part of why I wanted to come here is because I think there needs to be more synergy between people that do what I do seriously and you guys as college coaches, because we can help each other. Because like you said, like in order for me to thrive in my business, I don't get to just like say, for example, a college coach, if this kid is an all-conference player or you guys are winning, right? You may get away with neglecting this kid. I can't do that with what I do, right? Especially because a lot of the kids that I work with aren't going to be very good. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I have to be able to have that connection. Saying, if you want to make this a business and all you can do is train the high-level players, right, the 5-star players, you're not going to go very far. The people that kept my lights on, they're not playing basketball. Joey Yamana, this kid in Colorado, was working at a bank. And so, and what's crazy is like, I don't know why I picked his name, but he's a perfect example. You know, like he was struggling with a relationship with his mom. He comes to me and he listens to me. You know, just having that. So for me, I think that somebody that does well with what I do, like we have to be great at our emotional IQ. And that's why I think that, like, even when I was at Iowa State, I was able to contribute to that staff because you know how it is. The college coach, you're able to put my blinders on. And I think that's why there's a disconnect between the college coaches and this generation, because they are in tune with their feelings, right? You and I talked about mental health issues, right? And so, like, for me, like, even Lindell looks like a heavyweight boxer, but he was so fragile on the inside. And he tried to be a tough guy. And as soon as I went to Lindell and I was like, and you don't want to see them hurt. I know that you're hurt. Do you trust me? Yeah. So you can trust me with your hurt. Man, as soon as I said that, it looked like this weight was released off his shoulders and he just poured out his soul. Just like I couldn't get him to shut up. He went the next game and had a monster double-double. It was the first time he played well as a freshman. And it was all because I feel like that emotional IQ. They were watching film with him. They were working on his jump shot. But it wasn't that like, hey, are you okay kind of thing. So I think that you can't be afraid to, you know, open that door up, you know, as a leader. And so, like, yeah, I had to in terms of, like, where we're at now. The other thing is like these kids aren't afraid to step up and say how they feel injustices. And I think they're more selfless. Like, it's not just about them. It's about, like, I'm the star player, but you're mistreating this player right here. You know, like, players, I mean, I've seen so many players that have mental health issues, and they don't feel like they can come to their coach because they feel like their coach is going to look at them as soft. I've heard that tons of times. So just being able to create that space where they trust them. I tell people all the time, to be a good in player development, it's just like dating somebody. I see a lot of people, they try to train a kid, like they don't know you. They're not going to open up to you. You got to, like, it's time after time, I got to be consistent and show up. And time, even when I worked out with Jimmer, when I first started working out with Jimmer, I was just his trainer, right? By the next year, he's talking to me about his kids. He's talking to me about the stress. Should I go to the NBA and this, the pressures and like this, but just kind of nurturing that relationship off of the court. And then playing with my dad, like I definitely think that helped me, you know, because like I said, I was that person, you know, that overthought everything and understanding like, man, what did I need during that time?
Yeah.
You know, and I just try to give them what I needed at that time. Somebody to talk to, somebody to listen. I was the hardest worker. I didn't want to make excuses, you know, so, you know, that would be how I answer that.
Thank you. The second part of my question is this, and this is for you and your dad. I think in college sports, maybe even in high school, Coach Graham could answer better, but one of the toughest things to do in sports is to coach your child. There's so many different dynamics that go into it. You and your father had a chance to work with each other, and you play for him at Washington State. Can you guys talk about how tough that is to do? Because I don't think people understand that Coach Graham has still got to go into, if he plays you 6 minutes in a game and you don't win that game, when Coach Graham goes into a post game press conference, he's going to have to explain those 6 minutes. Okay, if he has a booster alumni function and he plays you 12 minutes in a game, he's going to have to explain those 12 minutes. Now, it's a little bit different in the sense that he's talking about his son, but the booster and alumni, they don't care. They want a reason why it didn't turn out the way they wanted it to turn out to. And you spoke on it a little bit earlier, how lonely it could be to be a coach's son, because the coach feels like he's got to coach his son harder than anybody so he can coach the other players hard. And the players on the team sometimes feel like they never get a break from the head coach. So if you show up at the party, they like, oh, come on, man. You know, he's going to go back and tell his daddy. You know, and I try to explain that to coaches that I work with that want to coach their sons, like it's so hard, it's so much harder than you think it is. Can you guys touch on that? And then being African American on top of it, coaching where Coach Graham was coaching, like the tough times that it can happen on both sides.
Yeah, I'll go first, Dad. So like for me, I wish there was a manual for that. That's one of those things in life, there's no manual for it. And so like, yeah, I felt that pressure, you know, when you become grown, like I can definitely see it from my dad's eyes. I think my dad tried to protect me. And so, but you're going to get it both ways, right? So like, I felt like he played was better than, but I wasn't like so much better than him that it was just an absolute obvious choice, right? But then what happens is when you don't play, then it's just like, well, why is he on scholarship?
Yeah.
So it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? And so like I definitely see that. I definitely felt like he tried to protect me because he knew that like if I go in there, like you put a kid in there, like he might go for 20, but he might get embarrassed. So I definitely felt that fatherly protection take over, and it definitely put it was a lot of friction in our relationship because of that. And for me, my best year at Washington State was my freshman year because like that was the least pressure. The more he got on the hot seat, the more harder it was for me. The more he got on the hot seat, the more I took it personal. I got to go get up extra shots. And then, like you said, then I'm trying to deal with the psychological deal of fitting in, right? I just wanted to be one of the guys, right? Yeah. But like to your point, like we're not going to go to the party. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. I'm not a snitch. I'm a player. I know the line, but now that I'm older, I get it. Right. And even like things where my dad, so like we're in the airport, you know how it is when we were at Idaho, same thing, you fly to Seattle, you got that long layover. Yeah. So we would be walking, players, my dad would be sitting there. He would be like, Nick, come over here. She want to say she loves me or something. Yeah. So what do you think the players thinking? Yeah. So now they're alienating me even more. He probably snitching on us. Right. Like, what am I supposed to do when I talk to my mom? But see, I didn't even think about that. That's when I say you wish you had a manual for that, right? Yeah. And I remember, like, just to, like, make, you know, a funny story, but to drive home your point about trying to fit in, it got to the point where we were in Oregon. I'm sure you remember this. I think you were the head coach then at Idaho. And we go out to eat, and we're walking back to the hotel, and it's a club right next door to the hotel. Like, we're looking out at the club, neon lights. This lady's next says, man, you know, if you guys can't sleep tonight, so we popping this. We dismiss it, don't think anything of it, can't sleep, looking out the window, line getting bigger. Somebody was like, yo, let's go. Now, normally I would never do that. But I'm at this place where I'm not fitting in with the guys. I'm not playing as much as I should. I was like, the hell with it. I'm not, you know, that was back before we charted. So, like, if we played on a Saturday night, they go out. They never went out before the game, but this was just whatever reason. I never went out. I'd be on an airplane. They'd be talking about how fun it was. I'm like, man, I ain't playing. So finally, I was like, I'm going to do it. Of course, the time that I go, we get caught. But it was just like living in that balance, trying to figure out where do I fit in and all that. So, yeah, we definitely went through that. You go, Dad.
Well, I tell you, Brian and all you guys, it was very difficult to get my son. And I say that, Lynn, from the standpoint is it's hard to separate coach and father. Because when Nick would go in the game, for example, and he would do something, if I'm down in my coaching stance down there, but I'm really become a cheerleader for my son. And, you know, just me and the good Lord, come on, Nick, make that shot. Come on, Nick. You know, that's what you end up doing. And then you try to establish the fact that because he's my son, I was probably too hard on him to prove a point to the other guys that just because he's my son, I'm going to get on him. And what happens, you end up saying some things or doing some things that's probably really hurting because I'm saying, that's my son, he can handle it. Or that's my son, he can do it. So I want to make sure that I'm not giving him anything, that he's earned it. So you become maybe a little bit more hard on him and you become a cheerleader. So still, I'm his father. And maybe there were times where I should have been more of a father than his coach, you know. And I'm still his father, and I still got to love him, and I still got to nurture him, but it's so much, like he said, it's so much pressure on you because now here I am, I finally got a chance to be a Division I head coach, and I've reached my goal. And I know this, as being a black man, I don't care if I'm at Washington State or if I'm at North Carolina, Kansas, or Duke, I got to produce. I'm not going to get another chance. I know I'm not going to get recycled. I'm not going to get, you know, this is it for me. So I got to make it work. You know that, Lynn. You got to make this work. So therefore, you know, it's hard to, and unless you're an established guy, unless you feel, you know, you got some juice under your feet, man, it's hard to go home and be a good husband. It's hard to go home and be a good father. And I'm always thinking about what I'm going to do. Can I get my job? And so it was more difficult on not only Nick, but on my wife and on my daughter, you know, because it seemed like you always pissed off about something, you know, and so you just driving, you just study driving. And like Nick said, you know, he wants to fit in with the guys. And so they break curfew and I'm sitting and they get caught. And I'm sitting in my hotel room. I get a phone call at about 3 o'clock in the morning. They, coach, your whole basketball team is over here at the club. Assistant coach gets up, they bring them into my room, and they walk them in one by one. And they say, I said, y'all said it was 6 guys, and the Nick was the last guy to come around in my room. And I said, man, you gotta be kidding me, not my own son. But me not understanding what he's going through because we didn't have a lot of father-son talks like we're doing right now. And he's 39 years old, and I'm 69 years, I'm damn near 70. So as I'm coaching him, we didn't have a lot of loving talks, you know, where we just sit down and, hey, man, how you doing, man? You all right, man? Everything okay? I'm more or less like, okay, Nick, you Division I player, you got to earn it. I'm hard on you, and I know he's trying and doing the right thing. So it's very difficult, but I will tell all of you, if you ever coach your son, don't forget to love him and continue to be a father. I mean, you know, because that's what happens to you, Lynn. Brian, you forget to be a father, and you study coach, whether you're at home, whether recruiting, or whether you in practice, or whether you're in film session. You know, I would critique or criticize Nick on a film session, and I might tell the one son when I got to Nick, I was more cutting and biting and sarcastic, you know, saying things to him in front of everybody that I didn't say to other people. So it ain't easy, man. It ain't easy. And I say this, I think if I was more of a father, he'd have been a better player. Because he was good. He was good. He started against Washington, against Stanford. They're the number one team in the country. Mike Montgomery said, man, that's the coach's son. We got guard. He was shooting jump shots. He's doing things, making plays. And I know as I look back, I know he was trying to please me. You know, he was trying, that pressure was on him. So again, not to elaborate all that, it's tough to coach your son, guys. But don't forget to be a father, you know, when you're coaching. Hope that helped everybody.
No, that was powerful. We appreciate you both being that vulnerable to share that, because it's an insight we wouldn't get otherwise. I know LP, you asked a really good question, so thank you for that. Nick, let's get to your presentation. I know you got a lot of great stuff for us. I know everyone's probably anxious to learn from you and see all the things that you do. So yeah, please, if you don't mind. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna make it where you can.
Share the screen.
Yep.
It should be.
Yeah,
You got a button here, so
you should be good to go now.
all right, let's see. All right. We good?
It's loading. You guys see it? Okay, yeah, we're good now.
All right, you can hear me, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So here's what we got. So like the first thing, you know, I'm gonna talk about. We talk about holistic development. That's kind of like my thing. That's what God's put on my heart. I don't know why my computer is moving so slow. Let's see something. All right. We'll go here. That document is not showing up, huh?
Not yet. It's just kind of like your open folder.
I don't know what's going on. Let's see if this one will work. All right. I think it's finally loading. So like this is kind of my thing, holistic development, skill development, IQ, film breakdowns, character development, leadership, communication. That's kind of like where I feel like God is leading me. But this is actually what I did when I was at Iowa State organically. I didn't know this is what I was doing, but that's what I was doing when I talked about my time with Lindell Wigginton. And hopefully this pops up. So
All right, this is my work with Lindell. I shared with you guys a document what we needed to work on.
See if I can get this lag out of here.
All right, this is my work with Lindell. I shared with you guys a document what we needed to work on. One of the things with him mentally is, he hangs on a bad place. You can see him messing up, getting frustrated. And so that's one of the things that I knew we had to work on. I wanted to push him to make mistakes, but I also wanted to coach him through how to handle mistakes and stay within himself. But Lindell's game, his biggest strength is his athletic ability, the ability to stop and pop, stop on the dime. So what we really wanted to do was perfect that, really work on his snatchback move, his ability plus Coach Prome's offense was spread before. We had a great point guard and Nick Bad that could create a rotation, kick Liddell on the opposite side of the floor and find a way to attack that closeout, get to the nail. That's where he's most comfortable. He got to the nail a few times, got in rhythm, then everything, it took the stress off his game and he was able to play. So here we are. I just want to work on him being able to be under control while stopping on the dime. So if he slows down, I'm already running. If he slows down, I'm able to get a hand.
I'm gonna pause it for about 10 seconds and try to let that lag catch up. I just this is like, so I mentioned the holistic development, right? I showed you the graphic. And so like Lindell, Coach Perry teed me up perfect. I feel like I was able to contribute to getting the most out of Lindell as a player because I developed his trust first. I developed his trust. I helped him out. And then after that, he trusted me with his game. When he trusted me with his game went to a level I was going to get to that year. And then he began to even trust me more off the court, helping him. And so like what I developed, I'll bring up like while this is loading, I'll go through a sheet. So Coach Prome gave me the freedom to develop in-season development for the players. I had in-season development for all the players. And through that, sorry about this. I use that time to not just develop them as players, but also develop them and just get to know them, like some of the things Coach Perry talked about, where they felt comfortable, open up. And the thing is like Coach Perry knows, my dad knows, man, when players trust you, they all snitch on each other. So I was able to like know the temperature of the whole team. I knew which players were smoking. I knew which players was drinking. I knew which players were depressed. I knew all of that just because I developed a relationship, but I also knew what Lindell needed and how to work with him. And so that's how I was able to put everything together. And to me, like my time at Iowa State showed that there needs to be more synergy between player development guys like myself and coaches, because I see the game in a different lens. And I think that's what this clip will show you. I look at it differently from the one-on-one player development, but that's constituted within the flow of a game. Whereas like Coach Prome looks at it like Lindell's struggling, I'm getting to the spots, but he can't pinpoint why. My time with Chauncey Billups, spending 2 to 3 years with him. My time working with Jimmer Fredette every summer. I'm able to pinpoint why. I can't tell you how many times after my workout where Jimmer and I was talking and just being a sponge, listening, picking his brain. You're talking about Jimmer Fredette, somebody who scored 80 points in the game, one of the most brilliant one-on-one players in the world. So because of my time with Coach Prome under his staff, I was able to take the best of both worlds and get Lindell to play at his optimum level. So let's see if we can get back on track, see if it's
on the ball and score his rhythm. And obviously his counter is being able to put it on the floor once they take his pull-up away. One of the things that we work on, some of his corrective work, is his handle. His handle was tight, it was loose. I was kind of surprised at how effective he was despite having a loose handle. One of the things that we work on within the drill and in our corrective work warming up a lot was fundamental ball handling and tighten that handle. Just really helping them get a feel for when to blow by somebody, when to stop and pop, when to engage with strength and get to his spots. We spent a lot of time with his floater as well, especially because they're over a defender again. working on that tight handle. When we first started, this handle wasn't that tight. Believe it or not, when we started, he wasn't physical. So we really wanted to work on him being able to be physical without being out of control. And as you can see, what made me feel good is our word translated right here. Stop and pop and just be able to elevate it over the defense. Get to the nail, stop and pop. This is game. That's what we wanted to perfect. Then create a closeout, get to the nail, so explosive. Great body control. This is not his strength necessarily on his team getting off the ball. And attacking it now.
So, yeah, okay, perfect. I'm glad that worked. So we got that. So apologize for the technical difficulties. But so once kind of, I was fortunate because David Hobbs was at Iowa State. He's an OG, coached at Alabama in the 90s. He's my dad's age, just an old school dude. And he told Prone, he was just like, if you want to really optimize Nick, you need to let him do this. He has a gift to help these players. So Coach Prone gave me a lot of freedom to develop in-season player development. And again, just so blessed because of being Chauncey Billups' disciple. Chauncey took me under his wing and told me how to train players in the season, off the season, things to think about, saving their legs. And one thing that Chauncey always did, Chauncey is obviously a great leader, but when we work out, guys, it's a mental therapy session. And I took that away, but they don't even know that he's helping them in that space because their guard's down because they're just hooping. He gets them to talking. And one of the things that I learned from Chauncey, he always encouraged me to stay in shape, keep my game polished. One of the coolest things about our relationship was that we would get in the gym and work out. Obviously, I'm old. He's really old, so it wasn't that long. But, we wanted to stay sharp. So now a lot of times we would actually jump in the workout with players. And I asked him about that. And he's like, one, when you can do stuff and you making it look easy, there's a certain level of respect. But then the other thing he said is when you're working, you don't necessarily look at you as coach player. It's player to player, and they feel more comfortable talking. So I definitely applied that with Lindell. So there was maybe once a week where I would get in the workout with him. All right, we're going to make 10 as a group. We're cheering each other on. Next thing you know, he's talking to me like I'm a teammate. And so this is in my in-season player development, and I'm going to send this as a link if you want to use it, but it's 30 to 40 minutes, game speed, minimizing running to stay fresh for practice, mental development. Like I said, as coaches, right, we all say sports is 80% is doing these kids a disservice because what are we doing to develop the mental? Right? So if I get 30 to 40 minutes with a kid and I'm only working on the physical and not the mental, he's not going to be ready to go to Fog Island Fieldhouse. He's not going to be ready to play 2 games in 1 week against really good competition. Understand the roles and concepts. Checking the temperature of the players and the team and creating a safe space where they can feel comfortable. I took the players' names off just for privacy reasons because we had – oh, it's going to – come on, don't freeze up on me. We had some guys on the team that, they had issues. And so, I did this every week. What's their mental, there we go. Good. So that's Lindell. So what's their mental issues? We had a couple guys, they couldn't, they like to drink and party. So my thing was for them was really helping them, stay focused and make good decisions. If we don't do anything with that workout, but get them in a mental place like that, we're gonna do that. But like we just saw Lindell's clip. Now you can see where my notes when I was working with Lindell, his body language, being early. So like Lindell, you could even see there when he would lose the ball, he would struggle, he would pout, he would act like he did in high school. Bro, this is the Big 12. Like you gotta get back on defense. Marcus Gary doesn't care that you lost the ball; he's gonna take it from you again. So I knew I needed to address that, being early to the practice floor. You know, Lindell, if we practice at 3 o'clock, I'm telling him, if you want to be a pro, like, bro, Coach Crum shouldn't have to tell you to get to the floor at 2:40. You know, so taking advantage, getting him to buy in, being a committed defender, playing at the right gears and speeds. When we first started working with Lindell, it was all one speed, teaching him how to change speeds, probe without getting too deep where there's nothing there. Because normally he's just a scorer. He's not a great passer, so he would get in too deep, keeping the defense on his heels while being under control. And then his fundamentals, shooting, minimizing movements. So Lindell wasn't a great shooter. So like what I tried to do was just create great rhythm. Like when he can get in great rhythm, he could make up for his lack of basketball or shooting mechanics. So I told him we just want to shoot off our fingertips. So he has great touch. As you can see in the clip, we really wanted to work on floaters and runners because his floater before was non-existent. Footwork and timing, working on his touch, change of speeds. And then the last part was skill specific to the role. You know, like how we play our ball screens. We do a lot of chases. We do a lot of drags, drag re-screens, step ups. So I tried to get his scoring as much out of the flow of what we did. Like I said, he played with Nate Babb. Nate Babb was a great point guard. So like he was constantly being in positions where he could catch it on the weak side against the rotation. And if he could feel good about attacking the nail, he was going to play good. He was going to be more engaged. So that's just kind of an example of my kind of player development. And I was so blessed that I had the freedom to like kind of do it my way at Iowa State. The coach asked me earlier about one of the downfalls of player development, right? I think that I've been developed for like the last 10 years, you know, to develop myself into a really good player development guy. But us as player development guys, unless you're in the NBA where they have one on staff, we don't get to do it year round. You know, it's like I'm going to go work out with him, then he's going to Pacific, right? So I was really excited to see, like, if I'm around this guy year round, how I could develop his game. So, you know, Lindell was kind of my guinea pig, and I feel like it was a success on all fronts. I want to run through this real quick. Hopefully it doesn't take forever to load. If it does anybody, like while that is loaded, does anybody have any questions about that?
Yeah, just a quick question for you, Nick. What do you do to measure success? Is it something that you set out with a goal? We're going to get to where you started at 60% free throw. We want to just improve you to a number, 65, or what do you do to measure that success, to quantify it?
Yeah, like, I don't know. For me, it's a lot about feel. You know, I think, well, no, I take that back. So you got to think, I worked out Chauncey and Jimmer. A lot of times I work them out together. So to me, like, that's the standard. When you're talking about guard play, work those guys. So, like, how can I get, like, it's almost like I'm saying, can I get this guy skilled enough to, like, fit in a workout with them? Like, when I'm working out Jimmer and Chauncey, it's makes. It's not shots, it's makes. Sometimes when I get this hotshot college kid that thinks he's a good shooter, I'll have him work out with Chauncey and Jimmer. He thinks he's a good shooter, and it's like, all right, we about to, you know, sometimes we'll go where one person is just like, you, like, make five, and there's 3 of them, like, by yourself. Chauncey step up, thinking you're a good shooter, and you 5 for 8, 5 for 9, 5 for 10. Like, I don't have to say anything to you. Coach Gray don't have to say anything to you. You know what I mean? One of the things that was crazy, you know, this is kind of off topic, but like, Jimmer is great about being a great mentor by example. So he'll work. I never got this. These kids telling me they want to be pros, Coach Perry. They work out with Jimmer. End of the workout, they get on the phone and go get on Snapchat. Jimmer says, okay, he's going to do the Spurs 100 after the workout by himself. They see Jimmer shooting 100 threes off game actions, no breaks, no water breaks after the workout. And I'm looking at them, and I'm like, this dude's a millionaire. He's giving you the blueprint, but you on Snapchat. But to get back on topic, yeah, so like getting them to the point where they go from one to like eventually getting to makes. You know what I mean? Because when I do Jimmer, it's makes. One of the PDFs that I'll leave you with, I won't go over, is like my last workout with Jimmer. I record our workouts, but you can see it's all makes. It's not shots. So game speed makes from distance. So this is just kind of my formula for player development. I tried to tweak it a little bit, and I'll leave this. I'll attach this in the notes to this PDF. But I had there's a lot of trainers that ain't worth a SHIT, as you guys know. So I kind of wrote this to parents so they could understand and just give them a blueprint. But I think it applies to, like some of the stuff that we're talking about. I applied this when I was working with Lindell. So to me, the first stage of player development is laying the foundation / correctives. I call them correctives. One of the things I noticed with NBA players, like with their strength coach, and this you guys talk to your strength coach about, each player has correctives. So like if they're doing workouts and they're doing lunges and bench press and this and that, before they do that, the strength coach has correctives, because as we know as athletes, all of us have something that's either weak or we overcompensate or this. For some, it may be back. For some, it may be our shoulders are tight. For some, our hamstrings. So each time they work out with their strength coach, they have corrective work. I was like, man, that should be applied in player development. And maybe you guys can do it too. Like you may be working with your guards and we're getting up pull-up jump shots, but say for example, Lindell's correctives where his handle was loose and he needed to work on his floater and his passing. So before we got into the meat and potatoes of what we were working on, we were going to do 10 to 15 minutes of corrective. That's also the foundation work, the ball handling, the footwork, the finishing, the shooting, the scoring. And so that's the first part. I'll just run through this real quick. Hopefully this is agreeing with me. The next one to me is progression reps. And that's, laying the foundations. Once you get the correctives, they can't make hook passes. If they can't make passes, they can work out. So progression reps after the corrective work. And that's where, like what we did with Lindell, where we're getting, like I said, like you saw his biggest strength was he can stop on a dime. If he's got great body control, he can elevate over you. So for him, it was just a bunch of progression reps of pulling up, snatch jump shot, step through floater, getting to that nail, like everything that we do, just those progression reps. So for me, the next step is application drills. And that's where, like, he would react. You saw some of the drills where he was just pulling up. We knew what he was going to do. The application drills was where I was giving him a live look, where he had to read. Was I going to cut him off and he had to, apply his tight handle and step back? Or was he going to body me and then be able to step off into his jump shot? And so that's kind of like my process. Foundational / corrective, progressive, and then application. And one of the things, this was crazy. When I was competitive hooping, I don't think I heard my dad say, like he told Coach Perry, get a ball and go hoop. I don't think players hooping up. Kevin Durant FaceTime, and he was like, the trainers are great, the cones are great, but you need to hoop. And you need to hoop without your head coach there, right? You need to hoop outside of your coach because you need to learn your moves. That's where you experiment. I worked out with Lindell like at 8 o'clock because I didn't want Prom looking down there seeing him struggle, right? I didn't even want to put that in Prom's head. like fumbling the ball, this and that. But by the time he got to prone, I knew, and he knew if he got to that nail and he went full speed, stop and pop, he was going to make it. And now he has the trust of his coach to shoot it in the game. And so, like, when I was at Iowa State, I could not believe this. Once our season ended in March, they never played pickup without being forced by a coach until the end of school. I could not believe it. And so, like, I just think that's the last thing. And I think that, like, competitive hooping, I think it should be structured and unstructured. Structured, obviously, we're playing off a pin down. We're playing, one-on-one with X amount of dribble. I do think that there's a space for, like, we play 32, like 21. 32 for us, like, is, like, there's no, everything's a checkup. I think, like, playing 30 with dribble, but, like, if you're playing against really good players, if you try to over dribble, you're not going to win because you're going to be tired. But just figuring that game out. And so then I kind of even came up with what I think is my formula outside of your team activities. I think 35% game speed and skill development training, 25% structured hooping, 10% unstructured hooping, 15%. I think it's 15% film breakdown, and this morning I was probably still half asleep. 15% fundamental maintenance work, percent mental development. Like I said, I really believe that, like, we need to look at every opportunity we get with these guys on the court to develop them mentally. And I think that even when you talk about mental development, I think it's really broad. I think that we should break that down. I like the word mental maturity. When I was working with Lindale, like, he was mentally immature. Make a mistake, look all up and look down and come on, man, and hit the wall and all that. And so, like, every time I worked out, I was trying to help him mature mentally. And so that's just kind of my formula for player development. Like I said, I'm going to, like, put this PDF in there so you guys can have access to it. And the last thing I will show you video-wise, if it's working out, is just to kind of show you kind of like my attention to detail is just different than a 5-on-5 coach, which I think is great synergy, right? I remember at Iowa State, because I've looked at basketball from a player development lens for so long, somebody be like, what play did they run? And I didn't know. I couldn't just, right, because I was looking at it from the player development lens. So I was blessed for the last 3 weeks to help Buddy Hield get ready to go back. And fortunately, we recorded his one-on-one. Is there any, hopefully this will cooperate, but while that's loading, is there any questions?
I think you talked about this, Coach, when you said you're going to share your couple questions about asking if you're sharing that document. I think you said you're going to put the PDF in.
Yep, I'm going to put them in the comments. So, all
right, let's look at this. All right, Buddy Hield right here, strong, big, explosive, right? He wants to smoke. Like most professional players drive. This is where you see a lot of young players there. Boy, he's looking for the smoke. He's a strong guy. And this tells us that we got to get in the weight room, get our legs, get our shoulders strong so we can absorb that contact and get into our shot right here. Let's go break this down looking at it slow. All right.
You pause and let it catch up.
So my thing is, you see a lot of people swiping. Here's what the first thing I noticed. One, look how low he is when he attacks. Look at his shoulders, look at his body, right? As strong as he is, as big as he is, to get in that position with somebody going downhill, that's a lot to cover. But right now, he swipes to find your body. He's trying to get into his chest. He knows if he can get into his chest right here, That defender's on the move going downhill. I put my strength on him, right? Now I can create the space or maybe even get a foul call. But I thought that was a big thing for me, seeing him swipe, looking to get into his chest, looking for contact, not swipe to release, swipe to engage in contact. Now that creates space. Look at the way that blow. Look at once he puts that shoulder into him, look how the defender reacts. Bam. And look at the balance of Buddy. Sizes of the shot right here, he knows that he wants to. So in order to keep his hands engaged or disengaged down low, to come in here just like around, he takes that as long as possible as he's measuring up the shot. And that kind of delays the contest. Just look at that full speed one more time and it will be done.
So I thought that kind of explains how like I see the game. And so like when I was at Iowa State, I'm watching film with the players, but it's kind of a different lens. And what I found out is like as you guys at the college level, man, just kind of giving them a film like that in small doses really helps. I'm a sweat equity owner into this platform that I'm playing off of. So the cool thing about that is like I can send that, I can do the voiceover and send them a shareable link that goes straight to their phone. And I've got a lot of engagement back from college players. And, you know, a lot of times those guys aren't really the ones to respond. So it's cool. It's great to see that they're responding to it. But that's just kind of like my niche and my specialty. And it's more of like, look at the spacing, look at this. So they kind of go hand in hand. And that, like I said, my thing at Iowa State was like my big experiment. And the last video I'll show you is probably the most significant to me. We talk about holistic training. We talk about my why. Lindale, like I told you about how when we first connected, he was angry. He wasn't playing well. He felt like he had the weight of the world on his shoulders. And, you know, he trusted me. He opened up and he let me help him not only as a basketball player and a man. And this is kind of the result. This is my paycheck. I was a GA, so I wasn't getting paid a lot of money. So this is my paycheck. I'll let that load for a few seconds. But while I do, was there any questions on that Buddy Hield thing? It was what's great about when you become a trainer where you get around like people as well, so they were really open and talking. But one of the things that I thought was impressed at how strong he is in person, but how shifty he is with his weight. And he was just telling me about how, you know, he didn't develop his change of speed until he got to the NBA level. Chauncey Billups told me the same thing. And that's one of the biggest things that I hear from a lot of guards. Like, you may be able to get away with not having to change of speed at the collegiate level, but you definitely need it at the professional levels. One of the things, especially being around Chauncey, is that I try to do with the college guards that I work with is if I can get them to really optimize their change of speed at the college level, that's really going to, especially in, you know, ball screen centric basketball, which we're in, that's really going to allow them to take their game to the next level. All right, here we go. So this is my paycheck.
What we do after we go career high? Huh? Know where the glory goes. Know where the glory goes. You did.
So for me, I don't know if you hear the audio, but that was like Charlie Wilson and T.I. has the song "I'm Blessed," a gospel song, and that was him and his mom's jam. And so the same Lindell that was angry, that was confused, that had the weight of the world on his shoulder, that was in Thanksgiving when we went to our Thanksgiving tournament. This was like on December the 9th, like completely different kid. And what made me feel good was the first thing he wanted to do was just kind of like, you know, take a moment to thank God. Like we would go to Buffalo Wild Wings after the game. So this was right after the game. And so for me, that's kind of like the full circle of kind of like the holistic development. And, you know, just real quick, I'll just segue into, you know, Brian mentioned my book. I can't believe, like, it sounds cool to say, but I really wrote a book. And the book was written when I was at Iowa State. I don't know how I did it. I was a graduate assistant going back to graduate school after not being in school for 13 years. By the way, had my first 3.0 semester in college. I had a 3.5. But doing the player development and doing all that and wrote a book. But I wrote the book based on, you know, the premise that, you know, these kids, man, they need a lot of mental help, like Coach Perry said. They need a lot of support. So I just wrote basketball-themed devotionals to them. I was writing it to Lindell. I was writing it to kids that I saw, both on the male and female team. And the feedback that I got was overwhelmingly positive from them. They said it's something that they can relate, they can understand. And so, like, I'm going to give you guys the advanced copy, the PDF. And if you give me a few moments of your time, I'd love to just kind of like, one, I would love, you know, hopefully, like, I would love for it. If any of you guys feel moved to endorse it, I really appreciate it. Like, I put as much as I love basketball, I put my life on hold, grinded my butt off, like in order for this to come to fruition. I mean, I've slept in cars, traveling the country doing basketball training, just to like save money, to put this out, just because I hope that I believe that like God will open the door for me to, you know, be able to be more financially comfortable, but it's bigger than that. You know, it's, to me, this book is so like the kids that I'm not able to be around can have those moments like Lindell had. But I just, this is my baby. So it's, and I love to tell this story, God in Basketball. The reason it's called God in Basketball, as I'm writing this, I don't know her story. And I'm at this Chick-fil-A Nation of Coaches and find out, as I'm writing the story, that James Naismith was a youth pastor. And he was ministering to kids in the pulpit at church. And he realized that I'm not getting through to these kids. They're not paying attention to me. So he went home and invented basketball to win souls for God and develop Christ-like character. That was just affirmation to me that, like, I wanted to write this book, and like, this literally is God's game. It was God breathed, God touched the heart of a passionate, you know, guy that wanted to make a difference like us in the lives of young people. And that's literally how he invented basketball. So that's kind of the spirit in which this book was written. I'm not gonna read it to you. I think it's really cool, the layout. So like, when you get the book, if somebody has a print copy of the book, it's gonna look like this. So there's gonna be kind of a cultured basketball image on the left side, like so, right here. And then the right side, I think that'll really speak to youth, speak to real hoopers like us, coaches. The right side will be the devotional. This one, God's recipe ain't always sweet. And then each devotional, there's 51, will have a soundtrack that they can listen to, and they can download the playlist on Apple or Spotify. And everything is basketball related. You know, this one speaks to a kid that, like, he's a freshman, and his coach brought him in and said they weren't renewing his scholarship. And he was mad, he was angry, and I kind of just told him, I said, you know, God has a recipe for your life, and all the ingredients aren't as sweet as frosting. You know, and I said, if the cake lacked ingredients, it wouldn't fulfill its purpose. It wouldn't taste right. In your recipe, they don't taste sweet. They're not going to be frosted. Flour doesn't taste good. Egg doesn't taste good, but it has to go in your recipe. And so just a bunch of things that we could all relate to. So, you know, I would love for you guys to read it. And I will make a quote card or whatever. You can post it on your social media. As you guys know, like word of mouth is huge, and hopefully it's something that you guys feel comfortable endorsing to those that you have influence over. So I'm excited to share that with you.
Yeah, awesome stuff, Nick. Definitely awesome, man. Well, you, I know we've talked about this. I know we talked a little bit about Chauncey and Jimmer and Lindell. You touched on Buddy Hield with your video. Will you tell us about, I know me and you have talked about this off this particular Zoom, but tell us about a Julian Stone, that story and that quote, if you don't mind. I don't know if you have it or if you remember it, but that would be great.
Julian Stone, he actually has the quote on the back of my book. And Julian made it to the NBA and reached out to me once he wasn't no longer in the NBA. He played, I don't know if you remember, he played for UTEP. And Julian, I endorsed the book, and his quote was basically like, I was in a dark place, speaking to Coach Perry. This is a guy in the NBA. He was like, I was in a dark place. I was depressed mentally, spiritually. And I hired Nick because I heard of his as a trainer. I thought I was just getting a good trainer, and he became much more than that. He became a brother, but he became somebody that led me out of my depression, you know, and it was through the foundation of his faith that gave him purpose, that gave him hope. And he credits that for helping him get back to the NBA when a lot of people said he wasn't, and then going back overseas to make really good money and win a EuroLeague championship.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Let's segue that right into open for questions or comments, either one for Coach. Thanks for that presentation, man. That was great. I know one person already said that they can't wait to get the book, Deontay Ferguson. I know I know Coach Shelley was talking about she couldn't wait for the PDF. So definitely a lot of great content that people are excited about. Dante, I'll pick on you, man. I know you're got your video on. If you don't mind, go ahead and share some words with Coach. I know you're a frequent Zoomer and a student of the game, so you'll bring some grace.
What's going on, Coach? I guess one of the
Yeah,
can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I guess one of the questions that I had that I written down is like, of course, like with the whole in-season development, I know a lot of it comes from watching film with ex-player or in a group setting with the players or however you want to do it. What other techniques that you use as well, as far as like, I guess getting, let's say, like you were saying, Lindell possibly was in a slump. Like, how do you get that player out of that slump besides, of course, watching that film or getting stuff?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good question. Like for me, Sutton, those of you guys that are old, you may remember the Big Country. Big Country had as dominant a 3-year run as anybody. I remember me and my dad laugh all the time, but like Big Country was here. He started off great, and then all of a sudden he just hit a slump where he sucked. I mean, he was awful. And so, like, being around my dad and Coach Sutton and Bill Self, seeing how they deal with it, I think it was naturally ingrained with me. I think you just have to have a feel for the situation. Like Lindell, like player, right? Like Lindell, like he carries the weight. Like he was supposed to be the first player from Nova Scotia to go to the NBA. He carries that weight around with him all the time, and so it was just like getting him out of his head, you know. So we work out late at night, maybe put on his playlist. Who's his favorite? Jay-Z. So he thinks Jay-Z's too old. So like we may put a playlist and he'll put a song and I put a song. Next thing you know, he's just having a good time getting him out of his head. You know, like a lot of visualization and stuff like that. You know, so I just think having a feel and having that connection, you know, with somebody, you know, where it's just, and I think that struggling, sometimes coaches, we put so much pressure on ourselves as well. And so, like, Lindell has pressure, the coaches have pressure, so now they can't really help him relieve his pressure.
Yeah, great question, Dante. Great question. Coach Hewitt was actually talking about this. I heard him on the Zoom recently talking about the same pressure you're talking about. Talked about kids in this generation may have more pressure than any kids that have played because of social media, because of, you know, kind of their circles back home, because of all those things. So what would you suggest, as you talked about it even yourself, the pressure you had playing for your dad, and maybe none of the assistant coaches maybe understood that. So what would you tell us now that you've been in the college basketball space, Coach, and you've also now been outside of that space as this player development outside of a college staff? What would you suggest? Or so Vince Walden from A&M, he called it leaning in. A lot of what you're talking about is leaning in to getting to know the player, asking them the deeper question, knowing that there's probably something going on he doesn't want to tell if you just stay on the surface. So to lean in to actually kind of figure out what's going on with him personally. What suggestions would you have in general for us as coaches at college level or high school level to be able to have a better connection and understanding for our players to be able to develop them better? Because what it sounds like, a lot of what your skill and gift is connecting with the player, so there's a trust and an understanding, and then obviously the basketball part you add on top of that, which makes it even better. And sometimes as college coaches, we're just trying to hit the basketball part only and not maybe leaning in and developing that relationship at a deeper level where we have a connection. So I know I'm kind of asking a long-winded question, but just summarizing some of the things you said, what would you suggest if you had to say one or two things to college coaches and the college staff that can maybe not have you there? So what should we be adding to our own tool belt?
I think that, like, one of the biggest things I see is, like, coaches need to embrace getting help from mental health experts. I mean, you see the NBA trending that way, to Coach Hughes' point, and really doing it. You know what I mean? I was talking to Prentice's mom, Coach Perry, and I was just like, I think that there needs to be somebody that can support them mentally on every staff, especially at the high major level where they have the budget for it. And I think that person needs to, like, it needs to be established that that person is a part of the team, but they are also their own kind of, like, it needs to be clear, like, he doesn't necessarily, he works with he's not, you know, inferior to him, because that's the deal, right, man? He's going to run and tell or coach, you know, and I think that that person needs to talk to those players like once a week. That's big, like I told you what Chauncey did. Like, when I was talking, one of the reasons that Lindell was successful is because, like, basically he had a therapy session. We just happened to be hooping. You know what I mean? So I think that that's important. I think that having somebody like I was trying to be a character coach and it didn't work out. But I think it didn't work out because I think that for me, like, it's bigger than just one team. But I think having somebody like that, like, I didn't fit in at Iowa State, not in any kind of negative way. I just haven't, just because of like me being the mentor. We play in Kansas, we play in Texas. Like, the average coach is like, man, locked in. Like, I was able to like be like, okay, we play in Kansas, but like I need to support Lindale. That I did have more of. I wish I had more of a connection with Coach to where like I could talk to him, because I was just the GA. So he wasn't talking to me, because all those assistant coaches, like, they're under that pressure. Like, they're trying to get to their next job. They're trying to get it. Whereas, like, I was like, you know, like, I might be a college coach, but like, I just want to help these kids. So I don't think that I felt that pressure. So having somebody like that to kind of bring you down to earth and give you some things to think about, even if they're not on staff, you know, like, I hope that I can get to a point where coaches are calling me and I'm able to be that person even from a remote place.
Good stuff, Coach. Good stuff. We'll take one more question, and then a couple closing thoughts from Coach Graham and also from Nick. I'll pull Coach Henderson in real quick, if you don't mind. We got another great coach in the city of Dallas. Coach Henderson, we talked earlier about coaching your son. You've coached your older son, who just graduated recently, not too long ago. I guess it's been a little while now, from Tulsa. Originally went to Wichita State, and then now you're coaching your younger son. What can you add to that context of conversation, coaching two of your sons? You probably learned some stuff from coaching your older son that maybe you're applying with your younger son too.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. I think given what Coach Graham was saying earlier, I think I've learned that it's important to make sure that you separate the on-court stuff and off-the-court stuff. I would go home and take it home with us and continue to drill about different things, and that's not always healthy. That's not good. So that was with my first one. My second son, who is 16 now, who is a rising junior, I'm actually glad that he's more assertive, vocal, in terms of being vocal. He basically said to me, Dad, you know, once we get home, enough is enough. And so I was actually pleased to hear that from a 16-year-old based on what I've gone through with my older son. But at the end of the day, our jobs are to make sure that our sons or daughters are given the best opportunities to be successful. And so in saying that, where I grew up in Houston in Third Ward, you know, went to Texas A&M, finished there, played overseas. You know, I think hard work, putting God first, and continuing to make sure that they understand what planning and organization and goals are. I think those things are so important. But making sure you separate basketball and being a parent are so important. So important. I know we are all ultra competitive. And Coach Graham said it earlier, and Nick said it as well. I mean, I've been at ESD for 17 years now. And I would not still be there if my teams were not competitive and I had not won the championships we won. I was able to do those things early on to extend my tenure at the school. And so I owe that all to not only my sons, but my extended family, who are the players that play for. So.
Yeah, appreciate that, Coach. Coach has coached Bill Pressey, who played in Missouri, played in the NBA, and is a head coach at Episcopal School in Dallas. Coach Graham, we'll take some.
Hey, Coach,
Go ahead.
can I ask, hey, Coach Henderson, right? That was
Hey,
Coach
bro.
Henderson?
Can you hear me?
Hello.
Can you hear me, Lynn?
I think Nick had one more thing, then we're gonna come right back to you, Coach Graham.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Hey, Coach Henderson, did you coach Saxon?
Yes, I did.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to tell you. So remember I told you, yeah, I used to have like kids jumping workouts with Jimmer.
Yes.
He was one of them. I had to tell you about that story. You don't get a good laugh out of that.
Listen, when I first got Saxon, it was his sophomore year. I love his competitive nature, but there were some things I had to. We had a little bit of a rough start, so to speak. And so yeah. But at the same time, I think he respected me enough to allow me to make sure that I infuse my knowledge and my coaching and even my parent hat as much as possible. I mean, his parents were the ones that opened that door up as well. So, he's playing now. Again, a kid that just ultimately didn't listen. When I'm telling him, Jackson, you need to go D2, D3, he's thinking he can go D1. And again, I don't want to break a kid's hopes and dreams, but you have to be honest with the kid. You can't just sit up here and play with kids. That's one thing, and Brian knows I'm not going to blow smoke up anybody's butt. And I'm going to be honest with you and tell you that's my kid included or my kids included. I mean, you're going to have to put in the work. Hell, I was working with both of mine this morning at 7 a.m. and again, at noon. So, you got to work if you want something.
Yep. Yeah, great stuff. Coach Graham, if you don't mind, any closing thoughts, anything you want to say about our presenter today or just anything for us coaches going forward?
Hey, well, guys, let me say this, Brian. Whoever put this together, I think is good. Anytime you can get a bunch of, with me, I'm a dinosaur, basketball is
I think he's muted.
and Lynn, you can attest to this. So many coaches nowadays make so much money.
Coach Graham, you were muted for a second. We missed a little bit. We heard you say you're a dinosaur, and then you got muted. That was probably my fault. Go ahead, Coach.
Okay. No, I was just saying, Brian, first let me say, anytime you can get a bunch of people together to exchange ideas and talk about experiences, it's good for the soul. To hear what Corey's got to say, to hear what Lynn's been through, what you've talked about, even though Nick's my son, we talk about it day in and day out, but anytime you can exchange ideas, like I said, I'm right at 70 years old and I'm always listening and trying to find ways to get better to do what I do. But I think this is good. Number two is, in this profession that we have chosen to get in, and I have a saying, Corey, that if you do three things, and Nick has heard this a million times, and my daughter has heard it a million times, you put God first, yourself second, and work hard. Something good gonna happen. Now, what that is, I don't know, but and I'll use you and Byron, you know this. Coaches in this profession, especially the D1 level, they make so much money. You got assistant coaches now that make $500,000 a year, and they forget what they're in this profession for.
Yep.
And pressure on them. And Nick alluded to this earlier about coaching. You forget about the human aspect in that you're dealing with a person. And I've said this a bunch of times. If I don't win another game, that's not what's going to get me to heaven. That's not, the good Lord ain't going to say, man, you were 21-0, you won the state, you did this, you did this. Hey, that ain't what it's about. It's about, did you feed his sheep, those young kids that you affect each and every day? That's why you're in this profession. And times have changed. The things you deal with have changed with social media and cell phones and computers. And you know, when I started coaching on the collegiate level, I had a roadmap, atlas. You know, you got directions by the guy down on the corner. Say, man, where is 253 Bentley? He said, go up to the 7-Eleven, make a right, go down that hill. If you go down the hill past the mailbox, you've gone too far. That's how I recruited. I recruited by stopping on the side of the road, using pay phones, making phone calls, and things like that. So the times have changed, but you have to recognize why we're in this profession. And Nick said it, Lynn, I think maybe you said it. We as coaches are teachers, and you know, it's a great profession. You know, but you can't take all your trophies and watches and rings. That ain't gonna keep you here on the earth, man. And I think this is good to exchange ideas and to find ways for us to get better. For the bottom line is to help young people, you know, and it's a thrill to me. And I like winning. Don't get me wrong, Brian. God, I like to win. Me and Lynn played a game and I beat him. He didn't speak to me for about a month. You know, he wouldn't even take my phone call, man. That's family. We played, and I tried to get out of the game. Well, I tried to get out of the game, but they made Washington State and Idaho play. And I think Lynn thought we ran the score up on him. And Nick could tell you, we weren't that good to run the score up on anybody. But this is why you're in the profession, for relationships and talking and understanding. And I don't know if there's any coaches on here that's looking to try to move up or advance in the career, but I'd be willing, and Nick and I'd be willing to talk to you about how to get in this profession, how you stay in the profession, and what are some of the hurdles and roadblocks that you're going to go through as you presume your way to try to stay in this profession long. I've been doing this for about 50 years, man. And I started in 1973 at Kimball High School. The last thing I'll tell you is you don't get anywhere in life without help. I've had a lot of people, black and white, help me. I've had a lot of people, black and white, misuse me, you know, and so understand that it's not about color, it's about surrounding yourself with the right people and trying to do the right thing to the best of your ability. And at the end of the day, you can look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, I did the best job I can do. But Brian, putting this together and talking to people and trying to get ideas and everything, well, I think it's tremendous, man. So anything I can do with anybody on here to help them in some way, you know, I love to talk about my experiences and the things I've been able to do in my career. So I appreciate it, Brian.
Yeah, no doubt, Coach. Great stuff. I hope that you can, if you know how to do this, and I mean that respectfully, but in the chat, if you can put your information on how to reach you, because I know we got a couple young guys.
Hey, man.
Matter of fact,
you got to do me like Nick. Yeah, I'm going to tell you, Lee, I'm going to tell you how Nick does, man. I'll ask Nick when I'm trying to do some computer. And he'll just say, Dan, all you got to do is do it. I said, Nick, he said, I'm going to show you this one time. And so you need to learn how to do this. I said, man, I don't need all that. I just learned how to do this yesterday, man. But my Brittany will do me the same way. My wife will do me the same. You don't know how to do that? Hey, Lynn, they just bought me some of them, what you call them things you put in your ear?
Earbuds.
I got some of them. And so now, you know, I'll get them in there. I'll be talking so loud. I said, Dad, if you pull it out, you know, we can hear you, man. So don't ask me. No, you ask Nick. He'll get you that info.
Nick just got you set up. He got you set up in the chat. So I know we got Coach Brian, who's a young up and coming coach, and Coach Ferguson, and I'm sure there's some others I'm not mentioning, but those guys it'll be great for them to reach out to you for sure. Along with myself, you know, I've always had the utmost respect for you, Coach, and always have been just somebody I've looked up to as far as a model of a career. I mean, you don't get much more successful than what you've done and what you continue to be able to do as far as impact young people. So glad to have you on today, Coach. We'll let our other OG, Coach Perry, say a few words, and then we'll give it back to Nick, and then we'll shut it down.
As always, Brian, all access. This Coach's Corner has been phenomenal during this quarantine, along with Rising Coaches. These formats are just like Coach Graham said, are unbelievable. I'm tickled pink that I was able to be on here with Coach Graham and then be able to present with Nick, who I've known forever, literally all his life. We go.
But for the record too, I couldn't even say much after you introduced him. I almost shouldn't have said anything because you did such a great job. I had to step out of the way.
That's
Hey,
my guy.
I didn't hear that introduction, man.
That's
We'll
my
have
guy.
to make sure you get the replay. But I think Nick was
Lynn,
even looking around like,
Lynn
"Fuck,
must,
nah."
Nick must have sent Lynn some money or something. To give him.
Nah,
Hey, he-
no, I
he-
gave him the Ray Charles introduction. No, it's been good to watch Nick grow and anything. I've always said this throughout my entire lifetime. The job that Coach Graham and his wife have done raising Nick and Brittany has been just unbelievable.
Their mother did a great job.
Yeah, she did an outstanding job, but you've done a great job as well. Your children are exceptional human beings, and they always have been. I've always admired that from afar, and to watch Nick do his thing, keep growing, and in any way that I can help him, and he knows that. Any way I can help him doing whatever he's doing, watching him live his dreams. I've always been all in, but I'll always be all in with him. And this has just been a great teaching tool.
Yeah, thank you for that, Coach, and we're definitely grateful to All Access. Grateful to Rising Coaches for allowing us to be able to join together and do this and have this platform. Phenomenal job by Nick. If you
Hey, Brian, can I say one more thing?
Yeah. Please.
Hey, I like to say this. Coaching my son and watching him grow. The one thing about Coach Corey, you probably can attest to this. You are so proud of him to watch him compete and to watch him do things. And sometimes because of the pressure and the fast moving of what you're doing, sometimes you don't have time to tell him that. But I'm watching him play against Stanford, and I'm watching him. Lynn, I'm watching him go at Richard Jefferson and Gilbert Arenas, and you're watching him compete, and Corey, you don't have time enough to put your arm around and tell him that because you got to move on to the next deal. But boy, when you're by yourself and you're alone, and when you're having your quiet time and read your Bible, it brings tears to your eyes because you say, "That's your son," And you don't have time enough so ingrained in trying to win the next game. Or that's what happens to you in this profession. It'll drive you like that, and you say, "Damn, man, that's my son out there." And to watch him do something and succeed at it. I remember one of Nick's first games when he was a freshman playing against Gonzaga, and he had to get to, and he's trying to appease me and run the plays and do everything he wanted to do. And so as a father and a coach, you're so proud of him, but you're so close together that you don't have time to say that. And sometimes you just got to throw it out there sometimes, and because you think you're so hard-nosed or you tough or you this, and you forget to be humble and loving all at the same time. Guys, if that makes sense, Corey, you probably coaching your son and Lynn, you forget that, man.
Yeah, Brian, if I can say something really quick, Coach, you're exactly right. I lost both of my parents 7 years ago, 2 months apart. That was probably the most tragic thing that I've gone through. My dad was sick, and it was not like it wasn't expected, but my mom was not sick. And so I say that to say I had to do a total 360 because I spent so much time in the gym. I was either in the gym, at church, or at home. And so I didn't allow myself to take breaks. I didn't allow myself to go on a vacation. I just turned 47. So it's you have to make sure you take care of yourself, but you also have to make sure that your kids, you're an example for your kids, and they really watch what you do. It's not all the time what you say. It's leading by example, servant leadership. So in saying that, I had to make sure that you've got to balance it out. This world is not a nice world. It's not a nice world. So you got to put your arm around them, but you also have to say, okay, I'm done hugging you. Let's get back to work. Let's get back to work. And then the last thing, you know, I've learned over a period of time that you got to tell people you love them every day, every minute, every hour, because you don't know, you don't know when it's going to be your time.
You don't know,
lost,
man.
we just lost a parent Saturday, had a heart attack, 59 years old. And so, it's just, you just don't know. So, you're exactly right, though, Coach.
Yeah, ton of wisdom. Appreciate that. Appreciate you guys taking it there. I think it's important at all times, but dealing with right now, not knowing if basketball or school or how that whole dynamic is even going to look. So push things in perspective without question. Telling people you love them, the mental health Nick talked about earlier, and just taking the time out to not only just push people but also love people is the most powerful weapon we have. So I'll close real quick with Rising Coaches. We'll get the replay for this out so that people can be able to watch it as well. We'll share that with everyone. But thanks so much, Nick. Man, much respect. You feel about you, man. Excited that more people are getting to learn how powerful your gifts are and what you do for the game of basketball, and not only that for the kingdom of Christ and helping people just to be their best version of themselves. I think that's what you do best. So we'll let you close, my man.
No, I just I appreciate it. I spend a lot of time praying and just like connecting with God. And one of the things that he told me, which is why I think is so cool, and I just encourage you guys to tell that story about like our game, like that is literally God's game. But like to me, basketball is my fellowship, and so like being here amongst you guys, like I live for that. I rejoice with that. So I just would love for you guys to stay in touch with me so I can fellowship. Because at the end of the day, when you talk about life, it's about fulfillment, and fulfillment comes from memories, and sharing memories and sharing moments and stuff like that. So, I just love for you guys to be a part of my basketball journey, and I'd love to be a part of yours. And whatever I can do to help you guys support your players, that's what I feel like my purpose is. So please use me as a resource. That's my service. That's my service. So.
Yeah, awesome, Coach. Awesome. And just tell us real quick about the book and how we can kind of plug into that as it's about to come out.
Yeah, so I should be finding a release date here pretty soon. A way to stay in contact with me is social media. Obviously, like to promote my book, to promote my training, I had to do social media. So I put my number there. So if you're not a social media person, please take my number. But if not, my social media is just culture or dot. Just the word culture, ORDIE, culture or dot. And if you could, like they told me, so the way it works, you really want to get great pre-sales when you sell a book. Because, with Amazon.com, it's just the algorithm. So when you really get a good pre-sale, now all of a sudden when you go on Amazon, your book will pop up anytime they search basketball or book or whatever. And that's where you have to get to. So if you really want to support me in the book, obviously tell people about it, encourage them to. But when that pre-sale hits, once you get it, just leave a review, a 5-star review. That'll really help me.
Well, thanks again, Nick. Thanks again, Coach Graham. Thanks again for joining. We're normally on every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Central. We have a special edition today with Nick, so we wanted to make sure we provided everybody. But obviously, All Access Coaches Corner and Rising Coaches is the best way to find us. And everybody stay safe and keep growing, keep impacting.
Appreciate you.